Hey, welcome to the Dom and Brian Show. This is our first episode here, and this is Brian. I'm Dominic. Brian, tell me a little bit about yourself. How did you get here? Where do you come from? What's going on?
Geez, where do you start? So, 41 years old. My wife and I, we moved here into the neighborhood about 3 years ago, decided to build a house, had a good friend that worked for the builder here for the neighborhood. And so we thought, what the heck? Interest rates were low, the time was right, kind of growing outside of our other home. And so we decided to build. And I got to tell you, man, I love it here. We've made such wonderful friends the last, 3 years we've been here. And it's so cool to be in a neighborhood where your kids have other friends the same
Well,
age.
yeah, it's like the olden days, right? Like, I remember growing up and, all the neighbors down the street and all that kind of stuff. Everybody hung out. Everybody did everything together. Kids played sports together. We rode bikes together. I mean, you did everything together.
Absolutely.
And you just don't get that anymore.
You
So
don't.
it's a special little deal we got going on here, that's for sure.
I'll tell you what it is. So I grew up in a small rural area, and you didn't really have neighborhoods like that. So I couldn't just walk up and down the street and see a friend or ride a bike somewhere. And so it's so cool to be able to see my own kids be able to have those friendships and bonds and be able to go to the pool or ride the bike or play catch. And so it's kind of a fun experience to watch the kids kind of grow with each other,
Right.
From family to family.
Right. So what do you guys like to do as far as, I know obviously we hang out a lot, but what do you guys like to do outside of just, the regular neighborhood kind of stuff?
Yeah, so obviously both my wife and I, we work 40, 50 hours a week. We're pretty big into sports. So my daughter plays soccer, son plays baseball. So as you can probably attest to that, if we're not at a practice or a game, we're going to the other kids' stuff. It's kind of a logistical puzzle piece, if you will, between my wife and I trying to figure out who's going where to pick who up. And I'll tell you, it's the most draining thing in the world, and it gives you a lot of respect for your parents for what they did for us when we were kids, and you don't quite realize that until you're an adult. But I got to tell you, I wouldn't change it, man. I would much rather be going 100 miles an hour to 15 different practices, watching my kids love what they do, than to sit at home and watch television.
Oh, absolutely. It kind of brings you, we're just now getting into it. This is our second year. My son, he's 6, he's 6, about to be 7 here in August. Plays hockey. This was his first year of hockey. You're talking 3-4 nights a week for practice.
Which is crazy.
It's a lot, man. It's a
lot.
But I have a lot of respect for the program and the way that they, have it all orchestrated, because these kids, so before the tryouts and all that kind of happened, I took my son up to the ice rink.
Right.
And we skated around for a while, right? And, he would fall and, do this and that, but he was always a pretty decent skater.
Sure.
But as soon as they started hitting the ice on a regular basis, he picked up on it so fast, and now the kid skates faster than I can.
So how'd you get into ice hockey?
So he actually got into ice hockey from my nephew.
From your nephew?
Yeah. So, when we lived out in Kansas City, when we would come back into town, just to kind of hang out or whatever for the weekend, we'd go to my nephew's games and watch that. And even a little kid, year old, 6 months old, he would just sit there and just watch. Up and down the ice. And so I'm like, he's going to want to play hockey. This is going to be terrible.
Well, that's
so much money.
Absolutely. Well, it's funny. So I'm not a hockey guy or a hockey family, but I love going to those games because you're so close.
Yeah.
It's so action packed. Like a lot of other sports like football, and it's kind of slow and methodical, and they're at the other end of the side of the field and you can't see them. But I feel like when you go to a Blues game, or we've been to a couple of games for Dominic, you're right there on it. There are no bad seats.
It's so
and
fast.
It's just action packed. It's fast. It's just it's very captivating for
and
an
even
audience.
even at a young age, it's fast.
It
right?
is.
The pucks here, they all move, right? And it's a great experience. I growing up never played hockey. I have no background in hockey. I was a baseball guy. Started playing baseball when I was in 6th grade because I hated it when it was little.
Sure.
It was way too slow. Played college ball. Did the whole thing, had great experience with that. So I don't, does it kind of hurt me that baseball's not his first love? Yeah, a little bit, but at the end of the day, it kind of allows me to sit back and just enjoy.
Absolutely.
Right? Because I don't know anything about hockey. I'll try to learn it. That way I can help him out, but I don't really know it. So.
Right. Well, I mean, I got to kind of say though, like when we went with you and your son back in December for a practice, and you're like, "Oh, I'm not really a good skater," and as he's skating backwards, by the way, like a professional, and I'm trying to just stay up on
Well, I'm
two
an
skates
athlete,
going
Brian,
forward.
okay? I'm an athlete.
Yeah, I was just kind of like, okay, well, you kind of made me feel like we were going to be on the same level of skating, and here he is skating backwards, 45 miles an hour with his son, and I was kind of like, oh, well, so you've done this maybe more than once or twice, and like you didn't just buy a pair of skates and figure out how to do it, as I'm kind of like holding my upper back and holding onto the side, trying to skate down with my son, and yeah.
Yeah, it's a good time, man. I enjoy it because it allows me to get out there with them. One of the cool things that they do within the St. Peter's organization at the end of the year, they usually have a parents versus kids game.
Oh, no kidding.
So last year we did it with their 6U team, and let me tell you, you think you're good, right? But these little kids will still score on you, and they will make you fall down so fast.
It's got to be competitive, right? They
Oh,
got to get out
God.
there and beat their moms and
Oh,
dads
yeah.
and grandpas and whoever's
Absolutely.
playing.
Yeah, it's great.
How funny. So do you think your other daughter is going to go into hockey, or is it?
I don't know. Like, you ask her what she wants to do. I want to play baseball, and I want to play hockey. I'm trying to push her away from the hockey. Let's play volleyball or basketball or, one of those other sports that doesn't consume our life.
Absolutely.
If they both play hockey, I will never see my wife.
When it seems like hockey is a lot more time consuming with practices, and it also feels like, at least in the region that we live in,
Right.
There's sort of like a lack of, I guess, rink time.
Yeah.
And so teams have to really fight for like who gets what times and when. And so it seems like at all age groups, they kind of can get stuck with these like 8, 9, 10 o'clock practices at night on a school night, just because there's only, so many places where they can practice versus other sports where you can kind of practice anywhere. Ice hockey obviously requires the facility and the ice to actually.
And it's always booked up, right? And now, granted, whenever the season rolls around, like, St. Peter's has, their 3 rinks right there.
Right.
And then there's another one over in Maryville. Then there's a couple other ones out in Wentzville. So, like, there's ice rinks around, but, like, you're really talking about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, maybe 8 sheets of ice that are within region, right? Like, with
For
pretty
how
close
many
to where we're at.
teams? I mean, well over 100
Oh,
probably.
way too many. I mean, whenever he has practice, there's 6 teams practicing at one time on the ice.
Jeez.
So, I mean, and they have it broken out beautifully because they all do, it's stations, right? So
Sure.
there's 6 stations. Each station's working on something different. You all stay with your group, and they learn.
So they figured out how to make
Yeah.
do with the
So it's
limited
all
ice
done
that
through
they have.
USA Hockey. So
Okay.
every practice, everything is done through USA Hockey. If it's not there, if they don't tell you what to do, then
Then it just
it doesn't count. To be a coach, you have to get certified.
Well, you talked about like lesson plans that you have to
Yeah.
be able to. They sort of guide the coaches, even if you were a lifetime hockey player or first time dad doing it. Like
Yeah.
they sort of give you the lesson plans and
Yeah, so like
sort
I
of
could go out and coach. You could go out and coach, not even knowing how to do it. As long as you took the tests and got certified, and you know how to run these drills and whatever, you'll be fine.
and they let you do it.
But I'm not paying the $400 to do it.
So I got to tell you, when you told us about the Little Blues ice hockey program, our son, who's 8 going on 9, had never done hockey before, and so definitely a new foreign venture for us.
Sure.
And so this guy got us into this 8-week program with the St. Louis Blues, which was phenomenal. It was top notch, very reasonably priced. But I got to tell you, like when you sign up for the program, you get all these supplies and all the gear you need. And so I'm having to call this guy going, hey, so what are these things and where exactly do these things go?
How do I put these
And
on?
yeah, I mean, it was like a whole learn because I'd never done it before. And so you get this box of goods and you're kind of going, okay, this is a
what's
chest protector plate. I get that. But what are these things? Are these for your knees, your elbows,
Right.
like what are these things for? And so, I mean, Dom was wonderful to sort of help us guide through that. And I got to tell you, my son, he really enjoyed the process. Like it was kind of a learning. He had really never even skated before.
Sure.
And just in that little short 6 to 8 weeks, like he was skating better. And I
Yeah.
think he scored maybe 1 goal, like in a little scrimmage.
Sure.
But it was certainly cool as a dad and my wife as a mom to sort of watch him do like a new
doing
sport
something
and
new,
learn it
learning
from like,
something
I
new.
don't know anything to like, I can kind of skate now
Yeah.
and kind of hold my own a tad. It was kind of a
Right.
cool experience.
I think we need to sign them up, man. We need to sign them up. Make it happen.
Too time consuming, man. Too time consuming.
Yeah,
and
it's
too
all right.
cold.
It is very cold.
I'm used to the sports where you can wear shorts and a t-shirt, and all of a sudden we're like, bringing the winter coats and the jackets and
Yeah.
the cold. It kind of seems funny because we played at the place where I guess the Blues play up there.
Yeah,
in
Centene.
It's Centene, and it just kind of seems ironic to have like metal bleachers in a facility that's whatever 60 degrees or 65 degrees.
It's cold.
Yeah, it's cold. It's cold. Makes you want, as a parent, kind of want to do some pacing because it's
Yep.
just so cold. And we were only there for I think like 45 to 50-minute practices.
Sure.
But yeah, it was a cool experience for him. So
Yeah.
all thanks to you. You and your son, after going to watch him play one of his games, Jace was like, yeah,
I'd like to try that.
he's like,
Dad.
yeah, I'd like to try this out. Let's kind of see what this is. And I was like, oh,
Sure.
buddy, I don't think we can make $1,000 investment into something and see if you like it. But I got to tell you, that program you recommended to us was top notch.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it. We actually were, I don't know if we say lucky enough, but during COVID, right?
Right.
Everything was shut down. We had him signed up for the Little Blues program.
Okay.
And they were like, all right, we're still going to do it. One parent, can only come.
So only one parent could come.
Only one
during
parent
those.
could come at a time. So I took him to all this stuff. And then after the first 6 or 8 weeks was over, they're like, we're doing another session, a continuing to blue or continuing to
Yeah,
little
that
blues.
extends past the initial
so
6
we're
to
like,
8
okay,
weeks.
let's do it again. This is the only thing that's going on right now.
Right.
Let's get out. At least I can get out of the house for an hour, 2 hours, whatever it is. So we actually ended up doing I think it's like 3 or 4 of them
Wow.
back to back to back. Then he took like a month off, and then we had I guess you call it tryout for the St. Peter's Hockey Club,
Sure.
which was great,
Yeah, because he had all those reps going in. And so really before that, then he'd really never
Never played.
done anything formalized with the
Nope.
system. That's crazy.
Yeah, so it's been a good process to watch, and see. And again, like for myself, since I don't know anything about it, it makes it more enjoyable for me to watch. Like if I was to go watch
Sure.
him play baseball, I coach his baseball team, and it's nerve wracking for myself because I understand the game at a way different level than
Sure.
most people do,
Sure.
because of the level I played at. But in trying to relay these messages to these little kids to try to teach them, hey, you can't play in the dirt, right? Like, get out of the dirt. There's no daisies here. Don't look at the sky. There's no birds
Sure.
are flying around, So hockey's been a blessing for me in that aspect.
Yeah.
But
Because it kind of removes that aspect as sort of a parent / coach / mentor to just like, I can just be a spectator
Yeah.
and watch my son or daughter just enjoy something new and just
Yeah.
let them kind of experience it on their own.
Right.
With
Something
having
they
their own
love
set
doing.
of coaches. Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's why I appreciate it a lot more too, is because I wasn't the person that was like, hey, buddy, you're going to play hockey because
Sure.
I was a hockey player.
'Cause I did,
in
and my
college.
dad did, and my brother did,
Everybody's
and-
played hockey, So that's why I admire most about it is that I'm not the one that was like, hey, buddy, you're going to play hockey.
It feels like today so many parents can kind of vicariously live through their sons or daughters like, oh, well, I was a pretty good high school basketball player, so that means you're going to be a great I'm going to make sure you're better than I was.
Right.
Or whatever the sport is, whatever the sex of your child. Like, it just seems like being more involved in youth sports now, it just seems like so many parents put so much pressure and so much emphasis on sports with their kids because I think they're kind of trying to relive their dream of whatever they
yeah.
were trying to do 25 years ago when they were a child. And
Absolutely.
it's sad because it can kind of drain some of that natural like success and fun of a child just experiencing a new sport or
Right.
kind of progressing through whatever sport that they're actually playing in.
Right. Why do you think that is? What do you think made that turn, right, within sports and within, I guess just life in general where, everything was like, oh, I want to do this. Okay, let's go do it. To where
Yeah.
now it's like, you're doing this because I want you to do it. And I want you to be the best. So I'm going to pay all this money for lessons and do all this stuff. What do
Yeah.
you think made that change?
It's like the competitiveness has really just extrapolated itself. When I think I only played high school baseball and that's all I did, but there was never a time where my dad said like, you got to go to batting practice. You got to do this. You got to go. You got to be the best baseball. He just was like, do you like baseball? Great. Play baseball. I'll make
Right.
sure I get you to practices. So it's a great question. I don't know if it's the creation of these club teams, and there's a club team now for swimming and golf and football
Everything.
and basketball. I mean,
Literally
any
everything.
running probably for all I know. And I think, when I was a kid 20 plus years ago, there was a little league team. That was it. There were like 3 little league teams of your age group. There were no traveling clubs.
Right.
And so, I don't know if I know the answer other than it can be disheartening to see, like, parents are leading you down this path of like, gosh, when your son or daughter turns 12, they're going to hate this because you
Oh, yeah.
drilled it into them so much that you've just taken the fun out of it.
Exactly.
And I see some of these major, like my son loves Aaron Judge, and I watch that guy play baseball, right? He's not a Cardinal, he's a Yankee. But when I watch him play, he just genuinely looks happy playing baseball.
Right.
Not because it's a career. And I get, you could say like, well, hey, he's making $250 million. Like, of course he's happy.
Sure.
But he just seems like he genuinely loves the sport.
Right.
And I wish we could like reinstill that back into kids from 5 and 6 all the way to 18, because there's much more to life than just sports.
Oh, absolutely, man. And I've also taught pitching and hitting lessons. I did that for like 6 years at a couple facilities out here, and you can tell the kids that want to be there
Sure.
and the kids that their parents are forcing them to be
it.
there. And me being me, I just tell these parents, your kid doesn't want to be here. So
it doesn't matter what you do as a coach or a mentor.
doesn't.
Like they just are being there because you've made them be there.
And like I can try to make it as fun as possible for these kids, joke around with them, act like they're my kid. Like I mess with all these kids, right?
Sure.
I mean, because that's what I think is fun.
Right.
And the kids laugh or whatever, but like you can tell they just have no interest in being there. I think it is a lot of these parents nowadays are, didn't make their high school team, right? Or they didn't make it as far in whatever sport that they played in college or in high school or whatever the case may be. That now that since maybe they got a little bit more money, maybe they got some friends that are more competitive now or whatever the case may be, but they wanted this, my kid's better than your kid. I can throw $1,000 at it, and he'll be better.
Absolutely.
And to me, it's just not the case. The kid's going to get better by playing with his buddies, playing catch.
Sure.
I mean,
Playing out in the cul-de-sac.
My son has gotten way better with playing catch because of your son playing catch with him.
And it's fun.
Absolutely.
Because it's not organized, it's not structured. It's just 2 kids with two gloves and a ball,
Right.
having fun.
And they're 2 years apart, right? Or a year and a half apart, whatever it is. But that's what I like to see.
Yeah. I feel like, so I went to high school with some guys that ended up playing in the NFL. And I look at them and I'm like, it's not because, I grew up in a small rural town, population of 2,000. We didn't have these big facilities for football, in the middle
Right.
of winter and the spring. Football was played from, July 1 through the end of October and November if you made playoffs, right? That was it. You never
Right.
did football again. Those kids then played basketball
Sure.
and then baseball or track. But I feel like a lot of like those guys that did that, God gave them a gift.
Yeah.
And in their case for football, it was a body.
Yeah.
These guys were 6'9" and 270 pounds when they were 17 years old.
Yeah.
Well, if God gives you that, that's something
Use
you can
it.
work with.
Yeah.
If you're a 5'8" guy and you want to be an NFL quarterback and you weigh a wet 160 pounds in high school,
Yeah.
I'm not saying you can't. Maybe you could be the next Drew Brees.
Right.
But the odds are kind of stacked,
Yeah.
not in your favor.
They're not. Absolutely not. I mean, that's like in college. We had this kid when I was going to a JUCO. This kid was probably 5'3", right? Maybe a $110, $115,
Sure.
right? Super skinny. This little dude would throw the ball like 93 miles an hour. How he
He
did
had a
it
gift.
was unbelievable. I mean, you can't teach that.
You
right?
can't.
The kid has no muscle. He's a string bean, and he's not tall at all.
Exactly.
So he's got
But he
everything
ha-
stacked
but he
against
had
him.
it.
But he had it, right? It's because the good man upstairs gave it to him.
Gave him something that you can't teach, you can't
Exactly.
mentor, you can't practice. Yeah, and I get the slate that sometimes a sports scholarship is the way for someone to get out of an impoverished area, a really bad cycle of life, where they've just been impoverished. I get that. I totally get that. But I feel like that's not the case for, 98% of these families that are
No.
spending tens of thousands of dollars a year on, sports for 8-year-olds.
Yeah.
Like I get, if my son or daughter is 17 years old and maybe I need to make an investment to tweak something because
Sure.
gosh, they got a college scholarship on the line that might pay for 70% of their schooling, right?
Right.
I get that. But I sometimes joke when I hear these people say, "Yeah, I'm dropping, $2,800 on my 6-year-old's baseball team."
There's
It's like
no
I'm pretty sure no one at the age of 6 is like the next Lou Gehrig, Babe Ruth.
No.
Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's 1 out of a million. I don't know. But I just kind of feel like
You
there's
paying
6.
$1,200 to teach my kid not to pick up the dirt?
Yeah, I mean, I just don't get that sort of investment. But clearly, you sort of hit something on the head, and that's an industry was created. Like someone, man or woman, whoever it was, figured out like, hey, there's a lot of people that maybe were a decent athlete in high school that think their kid could be 10 levels better, and so we got to take one step further besides biddy ball, little league,
Right.
flag football. We got to take it to the next level. And so some genius created these club teams in every sport,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden was able to sort of monetize children's participation in sports. And I think that's kind of what's sort of driven it now. And so now it's almost kind of like keeping up with the Joneses, I guess.
Yeah,
Like
in a
who
way.
do you guys play with? Oh, okay, you play for the X team, so you guys must be doing A-okay because
yeah.
you're with the X team. Oh, you're playing rec ball? Your kid must
Probably
not
not
be
good.
very good at basketball or baseball or
Right.
whatever the case may be.
Yeah, it's definitely a crazy thing.